Hey, you didn't warn me.
I didn't warn you.
That's not fair.
Sorry about that.
Suddenly he's like, we're at 10 seconds.
Hey, good morning.
No! Good morning, everybody.
It is May the 1st.
May 1st.
May 1st already.
That's crazy.
We had a little camera snafu this morning, so we're using a different camera, which is why the white balance looks weird and stuff. I didn't have enough time to...
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
To fix it. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
Ew.
we're a little yellow.
Promise we're not jaundiced or anything. It's just kind of freaky looking. Show off? No.
I have yours?
Don't worry.
Show off. Anyway.
Yours is hot, mine's cold. Perfect example of opposites attracting. What?
They attracted, see? They touched.
Ice cold.
Nice and hot.
Good morning.
I'm Seth.
I'm Tammy.
And we are the 4031 family, or at least part of it.
Yeah.
Like I like to say.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
Welcome to May.
May the 1st. The second third of the year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's weird.
It's going really fast.
This is the birthday month for my family.
It's one of them.
No, I mean, sorry, I meant...
It's a busy month.
It's a busy month.
Yeah, I mean, we have a number of those busy months now. We've already spoken to Benjamin, Thomas, Jeremiah, and Philip about finding people who don't have birthdays in March, April, May, June, July, August, November, and December. So that's 8 of the 12 months. They have 4 months to choose from. Jillian's chosen a guy whose birthday is actually today. Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday. Do we say the name?
Zeke.
Okay.
So yes, we do. Happy birthday, Zeke. So 8 of the 12 months we have filled with members of our family, of our immediate cluster of family. They have 4 months to choose from: January, February, September, and October. I would love it if they were to find somebody in those months. Now, Jeremiah and Philip are a little bit young, but hey, if you know anybody who has a January, February, September, or October, we got a couple guys who are, waiting for God to send the right person, not mom, waiting for God to send the right person.
If we were recording this and not live, that would be an edit. That's how you know we're doing this live this morning, right?
Yeah, but I met my guy when I was 14. So it's possible that Philip and Jeremiah, being 14 and 15, could meet their person at the stage of their life too.
Sure.
I remember when I said
How old was Jillian when she met Zeke?
Oh, Lord have mercy. That was at least 2009, so she was 6.
So,
yeah.
She's got you beat.
She does.
So far.
Well, they're not married, so...
No, I know.
I mean, there is that, but, yeah. It's fun how God puts you into the path, and I'm really worried about that telling us that we're having issues.
I'm not having any errors on the stream over here. It may just be a Facebook.
Yeah, or it's the webcam, which concerns me. So if anybody's watching right now, can you let us know if you're seeing us okay over on Facebook or Rumble? If you're at our Rumble page, let us know how things are going over there.
It doesn't say anybody's watching us on Facebook.
Well, I was hopeful. That's all. All right, so what are we doing today? We have 8 views.
Today's the day.
Today's the day?
The kind of day.
What are we doing?
You mean devotionalized?
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me pull that up. Today is devotion is entitled Joy in Prison.
I don't think I'll cry on this one.
I'm not sure.
Oh, great.
I don't know it. I haven't read it.
I haven't either.
But, that's... Yesterday's theme was all about being thankful in hard times. Joy in prison sounds like it's going to be about...
harder times.
Being joyful in hard times.
Yeah. Well, let's find out.
Okay.
We're reading from the Institute for Creation Research's Days of Praise.
We are. And this one's written by Michael J. Stamp. Hey, Mike. Michael. Not Mike. Sorry. You're probably not watching this.
This would be another edit if we weren't, going, here we go.
Absolutely. So from Philippians chapter 2, yea, and if I offered upon the sacrifice and service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with you all.
The comma threw me off there because I thought it was like I joy, like that was my name.
Yeah.
So thanks for continuing.
Because we don't use the word joy like as a verb much anymore.
Right. No.
Right? I joy. It took me a second staring at it. It was like, first joy?
Yea, and I offered upon the sacrifice and service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with
if
you
I
all.
offered upon the sacrifice.
Oh, sorry,
of your
if.
faith.
Yeah.
Well, that's I don't even know what to do with that.
Philippians 2:17.
So we should keep reading.
Why don't we keep reading?
Let's keep reading.
Go,
The
baby.
epistles, which are not the apostles' wives. The epistles are... Have you never heard that? The epistles are letters.
I knew that.
Yeah,
I
okay.
never heard the, whatever, mischaracterization of them being the wives of the apostles.
The letters Paul penned while in prison. Oh, see,
That was
that's one of the
fun.
prison epistles. Include Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, Philemon, and likely 2 Timothy. One can imagine Satan's glee when the apostle was first thrown into prison, but cell and chains didn't silence Paul or thwart his joy.
Ooh, some good words in there.
Thwart his joy. Nice. The book of... This would be an edit. The book of Philippians. The book of Philippians, the epistle of joy, was likely written from an imprisonment in Rome. Here we see a perfect example of a common biblical theme. Something happens that appears evil, but God uses it for good. Oh, this is going to be fun. Genesis 50:20 is the go-to verse for that, where it says, "But as for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good." Think of it this way, says Michael Stamp. God sentenced Paul to pray and write for a season. It was a retreat of sorts. I'm sure he didn't see it that way.
Right? Yeah.
A time of great intimacy between Paul and his Redeemer. Far from being despondent about his incarceration, Paul embraced it. He didn't beg to be free, ask his friends to bribe the guards, or even insist on his innocence. He rather encouraged believers to stand fast for the faith. Also in Philippians. So there you go.
Is that it?
That's it, I think, isn't it?
Oh,
But wait.
there's more.
Paul yielded to God's will, and this was the key to his peace in prison. Only then could he say, "I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me." The Holy Spirit was present in the prison with Paul, and the Spirit inspired every word Paul wrote. God advances the gospel despite and through apparent obstacles. The things which happened unto me have fallen out rather unto the furtherance of the gospel, Paul said in Philippians. Are you in a place you don't want to be? Sorry, no, I won't do that. Are you in a place you don't want to be? Remember that the Holy Spirit is with you in that seemingly dark place. God can and will use you wherever you are. There is a purpose in the trial.
I'm sorry.
The furtherance of the gospel and joy. The psalmist said, "In thy presence is fullness of joy."
So when, and this could be really stupid of me for asking, we've been with ICR since 2008, so I should know this answer. So somebody must be planning the order in which these are put in there.
I mean, somebody does, yeah.
Yeah, because this is aligning really well with specifically yesterday's.
Yeah,
devotion
thematically, it
yeah.
definitely, and again, that's why I said it's like yesterday we had maintaining your faith in times of trouble, and today it's about maintaining your joy and changing how you look at your circumstance.
Yeah,
you
the
might
purpose
be
in the trial.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, you're in prison. No, I'm in a retreat.
Well, right.
I mean, that's kind of how he's phrasing it there.
So I see that comment of, hey, you're in prison. No, I'm not. Well, yes, he is, but he's gonna make good of the situation. And I can't help but go back and think of Chaz and Patty. You know, there was this sweet wife of a coworker of Seth's, and she was just stricken with cancer. I mean, everywhere. She wasn't given very long to live. Ended up surviving 5 years into that, completely riddled with cancer. Went through numerous rounds of chemo and various medical treatments to try to help her. And they never called it that. He always, whenever he'd post about it on Facebook, it was always their next mission trip. It was their mission.
Well, that's because Patty wouldn't go anywhere without sharing the gospel with whomever she was with.
Yeah,
So
and even during COVID, when Patty would be in treatments, Chaz would still bring her to the center, and he'd sit outside her window reading the Bible. And it was just this beautiful testament to their love for each other, his being there for her through all of that, her knowing he was there. I, as a wife who's, had medical issues, not like she had, obviously, but knowing that your soulmate is there over you, and he was praying over her, and constantly, but it was their way to share God with people that they would meet in that journey. And it was a beautiful way to turn something dark and bad back to God, and trying to help give others hope, give others peace, all of that kind of stuff. So it was, I don't know. I think of that anytime people are going through moments like that, in that way of turning the bad to good.
Yeah.
There was another part in there with the Genesis 50 verse that I remember we had studied in our Ruth study about Baal. There's a verse in Deuteronomy, I'm going to say the wrong chapter, so I won't say it. But it was something about that God turned a curse into a blessing.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, he did that with...
I think it was Deuteronomy 29, but I don't even know if that's a chapter in Deuteronomy, so I don't know. I'll go get my notes.
Deuteronomy 29 somewhere. No. No, I mean, that reminds me of... I don't know who the king was, but, the guy who brought Balaam out to curse the Israelites. Is that who you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. Not Baal, Balaam. Yeah.
Balaam. I think that's in Numbers, but I'm not sure.
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, it could be Deuteronomy. But
I'm
yeah,
trying to find it.
Balaam stood up on the mountain looking down at the Israelites and was tasked with pronouncing a curse on them. And
Yes.
a blessing came out of
Yes.
his mouth.
That one. That's what I meant. See, again, I said this the other day. I can throw something out that's somewhat biblical, and he knows what I'm talking about. Biblical-ish.
No, and then they went to go do it again, like on
Numbers 22 to 24. The Lord your God turned the curse into a blessing for you because the Lord your God loved you.
Right.
Is the brief little Google.
So the sorry, I've got a terrible itch on my forehead this morning. Now that Genesis 50:20 verse is hard. What you intended for evil. Go back and look at it again.
Yeah.
But as for you, you thought evil against me. Balak, the king of Moab. That's right. Numbers 20.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Good morning, Benjamin.
Good morning, Benjamin. But as for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good. A lot of times we like to think about when we put God in a box, right, and we make him our
That's
little...
pretty stupid.
Well, we make him our little God, and so we characterize things, and we say, well, it was a really hard time, but God used it, right? God used it for something. And the reality is...
Don't put God in a box.
The reality is... Let's go back to the Genesis 50 verse. Context here, Joseph, his brothers, beat him up, threw him in a pit, tore his clothing.
Left him for dead.
And then decided not to do that, but to sell him into slavery, and took his coat, his clothes, and dipped him in blood, and took him back to their father and said, look, your son's dead. Okay, not a bunch of nice guys at that point in Scripture anyway, right? And that's certainly an evil act. But Joseph, in slavery, goes, and a sequence of events, it's beyond the scope today, but God ends up raising him up in the royal household in Egypt and makes him second in command, over Egypt at a time when Egypt desperately needed him. And this is at the reconciliation, or the meeting of Joseph with his brothers. And Joseph says to them, what you thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good. He's not saying, you did something horrible to me, you thought something horrible about me, you thought to do something evil, but God used it instead. What's he say? He says, God meant it unto good, because God's sovereign, right? Because, and this is the uncomfortable part, this is we don't want the God
who always fashioned it that way.
Right. We don't want the God who sends the trials and the troubles and the temptations and the hurricanes and the floods, and we don't that we want God to use natural disasters or use things to help us be better. But God does help us be better by sending those things, ultimately, and it's a hard thing, including Paul being in prison, and that's what Michael Stamp is getting at in this devotion. Yes, they threw him in prison for breaking the law, for doing whatever he was in prison for at the time, but God wanted him in that prison, and falsely accusing him or accusing him of this crime or whatever was the means by which he accomplished that, giving Paul the time to contemplate, pray, think, and ultimately write those prison epistles. Again, Mr. Stamp qualifies it as a retreat, or what did he say? I thought that was funny.
A retreat.
It was a retreat of sorts, a time of great intimacy. But again, that isn't God using Paul in prison.
God intended
Paul to be in prison. Yeah, yeah, and maybe unjustly, certainly unjustly accused.
Right.
So. But that's hard. But if you let it be hard, right? If you let it
have its purpose,
if you let it happen, and you think, and you the hard way to put it, you give God the credit for putting you in the hard times. There's great comfort in that, because if God, I hate to use a meme, it's not a meme, but if God brought you to it, he'll bring you through it, kind of a thing.
Right.
But the
overgeneralization.
It definitely is, and there's times that he won't. He'll bring you to something that'll kill you, ultimately.
but in that comes the victory of
right.
Yeah,
exactly. This is one of those instances where God gets to be God. And we get to be thankful.
Well, I wonder too if there's a little bit of okay, so his brothers betrayed him, obviously, in a really, really deep, dark way. By saying what you intended for evil, God meant. So he's acknowledging God's intention. God designed it to be this way.
Yeah.
Not only does it give God the glory and the credit, as you would put it, he can put all of his prayers and all of his attention and all of his thoughts towards God in that, and it takes it away from the brothers. It takes away the authority. It takes away the ability for the brothers to go, Neener, 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 look what we did to you. It's no. God intended this for me. He used you. He used you to do his plan. And so there's maybe even a little bit of, I'm taking away your power, brothers. God put me here through you. And I don't know. I think
the other thing
it's weird.
I didn't mean to interrupt. But the other thing there is, let's tie it back to yesterday, right? If you can see the hand of God in orchestrating events, good and bad, and especially bad, because that was the hard part yesterday. How can we be grateful in times of difficulty?
Right.
And the answer is because your Father put you there for a reason.
Yeah.
You may not know it. You may never know what it is.
Right.
Ultimately, right? But you can know that God is sovereign and there's a purpose to it. And it may be for your betterment. It may be for somebody else's betterment that you'll never know, you know? So it's hard, but this is
well, and there's a song out there that I remember listening to a lot, and I always forget who it's by, and I probably should know it, but it's called I'm Already There. I don't remember who it is. Benjamin, you might remember, but the bridge of it is, basically when you get to heaven and you get to look at the the plans. You get to turn around and see where all the pieces fit. Benjamin, you've got to know which one I'm talking about.
He may not still be here. Jeremiah 29:11 is the classic verse.
No, but it's not a biblical verse. It's I just wish I could see that plan now. Right. And then it like in the midst of your despair, if only you could see what God has planned out of that misery. We don't get that. We get to see it after the fact. But it's that comfort of knowing God's already seen us through it. Whether it's all the way through or through it by being with him in heaven. But he's already there. He's on the other side. We will one day get a chance to look.
Casting Crowns already there.
It is Casting Crowns. Thank you. There's comfort in that, in knowing that God hasn't abandoned us even when we might feel abandoned. He knows how all the pieces fit. He knows how it all works together. We're thinking back to Prince of Egypt. We're just a thread in the biggest tapestry, But that also made me think about this verse from Genesis also. Joseph's brothers selling him off eventually made his way to Egypt. But you've talked about in the past, how the beginning of the Bible, some of those books are written by Moses. Well, how would he have ever gotten his hands on some of these things? Well, it was because potentially Joseph brought things with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
that's a much bigger picture of God's
sovereign protection,
directionality.
Yeah, what she's referring to, you said Moses, but Genesis, I think, was probably penned by the patriarchs.
I know.
Ultimately, but you said, I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just meaning the fact that Joseph got to Egypt.
That's where
Sorry,
no, it's
I
okay.
apologize.
No, you're good.
Got to Moses.
Right. If you look at the story of Genesis, it starts with the garden, and it ends up with the Israelites in the royal house in Egypt. And we do have, in Genesis, it says in chapter 17 or 18, I think it says something about Abraham gave Isaac all that he owned. So we see inheritance, right, going on at that point. And then you get to Joseph, the whole Jacob clan comes into Egypt at the end. And then you fast forward 400 years, and what does God do? Well, he raises up Moses. Well, where does he raise up Moses? He raises him up in the royal house in Egypt. So again, if you have these historical records, if you will, right, being passed down through the patriarch period, it ends up with Jacob coming into Egypt. And so 440 years later, whatever, when Moses is on Mount Sinai and comes across a bush on fire that isn't burning, and a voice says, "I'm the God of your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Moses knows who he's talking about at that time. I mean, Moses was raised in an Egyptian household, but he knows. So there is evidence of that knowledge, there. And so, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
It's again watching God
orchestrate events. Yeah.
Far in the future.
Yeah.
And that's again where you're talking about that you may never see your way out of a moment. But that's the legacies. That's even if you don't ever find out here what the reason for a journey was, the reason for a trial.
Right.
Eventually you get to potentially look back but honestly, by the time we get to heaven, we won't care about the trials here on earth. It's fun. It's easy to say, one day I'll understand, but by the time we get there, we won't care. I don't believe.
Well, that's one of the things about trying to cultivate a good perspective now.
Yeah.
Because now, when it matters,
it's just temporal.
No. Well, yes, but I mean, now when it matters, we do care.
Yeah.
And so we can look around and see the hand of God working in situations and events, and we can take those moments and turn them into monuments and praise Him for them here. So we
need to remember to praise Him in our moment. Going back a little bit to yesterday, but also to this this devotion here with Paul in prison and taking every opportunity he had to you've got to imagine guards and other prisoners going, what is it that is giving you peace? I've been asked that. I still remember going to Michael's with the 5 and doing arts and crafts night, and it was just me and the 5 and the instructor, and she'd walk me out to the car with all the kids and all of their craft that they made, and she turned to me one day and she said, how are you doing this? How do you handle 5 kids? You're up here by yourself doing this. How are you doing it? By the grace of God. God's grace, and right. That's what I have.
Yep.
And she didn't understand it, and she said, I'm Jewish. She didn't understand God's grace in that way. And she told me she was gonna dive into the New Testament a little bit. I'd like to hope that she did. Now so Seth just highlighted the phrase on the computer, if I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. All I can do is think back to a Caruso t-shirt that Thomas would wear all the time. Not that Thomas had anything to do with the way it was printed, but it was, I can do all things through Christ which strength ends me, because the margins of the way they spread out the word strength, it was just strength ends me.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
It was so horrible. It was funny.
Anyway, thank you for joining us this morning.
Almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I got to get to work.
Me too.
I know.
Today's grocery shopping day. I think I said that Monday, but I get to do it again. But today, Walmart shall deliver.
Oh, so you're not grocery shopping?
I am. I had to put in my order. I'm just
not
walking.
Window shopping on the computer.
I'm just not walking.
Okay, well that's good. Anyway, like this video, please.
Please, and share it with people.
If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're watching on Rumble, please follow. If you're not watching on Rumble, follow the link and go watch it on Rumble. And follow us. We need followers on Rumble to get to the next level of whatever.
Yeah.
To get access to some of their creator studio things and whatever. So we'd like to do that. So you could help us out immensely by clicking the link in the description to Rumble and just clicking follow.
Also, we'd love it if you check out our Facebook page for the 4031 family. I think it says the 4031 family LLC. We would love it if you would follow that page over there as well. That will also help us access more things that we can do as a page on YouTube.
Yeah.
As always, if there's
because we don't have very many followers on YouTube, on Facebook either.
No, because we don't post there much as often as we should.
We need to.
If there's anything we can pray over with you, please feel free to reach out to us.
Pray with me at the4031family.com.
Absolutely. Or feel free to drop a comment on whatever platform you're watching, and we'll get notified of that.
We try to respond to all the comments.
Yeah.
Unless you're selling something.
Yeah. I think we're going to try to do, I would like to do a reaction video maybe this weekend of that song Lori had posted yesterday. The good, the bad, and the in-between. Maybe we can do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
If there are any songs that you might want us to listen to, do a reaction video for, please let us know, and we'll try to work that into our schedule. Otherwise, we hope to be here tomorrow morning, Friday,
May the 2nd.
9:30. But I hope you all have an amazing day. Hopefully down here in Texas it won't rain so much today.
Hopefully not.
Yesterday was crazy.
So
pool almost overflowed.
It did.
That was weird. Oh. All right, so
for the 4031 family,
I'm Tammy.
I'm Seth.
He's God.
And we are not.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.